I F29 suspect my ex M30 and best friend F27 were having an affair that led to our breakup. Advice needed. Background: I F29 was with my ex George M30 for almost 10 years. We met in school and were close friends for 6-7 years before we started dating. We still share the same group of friends from school. In mid-February of this year, George ended the relationship to work out if he was happier on his own. This came as a complete shock to me, but I am slowly getting better. I met Hannah F27 at work around 4 years ago when we both started the same position at a similar time. We had a lot in common and became close friends very quickly. At the start of lockdown, Hannah and I were both working from home and she reached out to me admitting she had become depressed whilst living on her own so far from her family. I invited her to join our group of friends lockdown activities group Zoom calls, socially distanced gatherings when they were allowed in our country, etc. She accepted and started to seem happier and more like her usual self. She was also extremely grateful to me for inviting her as she didn't have many friends so soon after moving to a new city. She became particularly close with George's brother Harry M27 and it was clear the two had developed feelings for one another. Whilst we were all happy for them and jokingly teased their obvious flirting, George seemed to be bothered by it and insisted they weren't a good fit and believed Hannah deserved better. Since then, there have been a few instances that bothered me about George and Hannah's friendship, but nothing concrete enough to lead me to accuse them of cheating. In September 2020, Hannah and I both applied to the same training program at work. I was accepted and she wasn't. Hannah and George started talking a lot more as they both were unhappy in their jobs and were looking into retraining. As I was studying for exams, they both told me that they were going to only speak to each other about their stresses as they didn't want to burden me with it. I was fine with this, however I noticed they would stay up literally all night texting and calling each other to the point where they woke me up a few times. When I expressed that I was becoming a little uncomfortable and asked if anything else was bothering him that he felt he couldn't tell me, George admitted to giving Hannah advice about Harry. The advice I later learned was him trash-talking Harry and convincing Hannah to not continue their relationship, but insisted that there was nothing going on and that they were just venting to each other in order to give me the mental space to focus on my training program. When lockdown lifted and we were all allowed to see each other socially again, Hannah would become upset about something and would only talk to George about it. They would separate themselves from everyone else and go to talk alone in another room for hours. When I asked George why they always removed themselves from everyone else, he'd explain that Hannah was upset about missing family, work, literally anything, and that he just happened to come across her when she was upset and she therefore just ended up talking to him about it. Harry was upset that Hannah had dropped him so quickly for no reason, and admitted to me that he felt that there was something going on between her and George. When I confronted George, he insisted that Harry was just upset that things hadn't worked out, that he was just jealous that he wasn't her favorite person anymore, and was trying his best to turn everyone against Hannah in some kind of revenge plot. Hannah and I talked way less frequently. At first I put it down to her getting to know a new group of people. But 2 years later she still barely speaks to me. George became Hannah's personal driver even though Hannah lives an hour away from us. Hannah can drive herself, but when I asked them about this new arrangement, she said that she had become anxious driving and George didn't mind driving her around. Hannah and George started their own private Discord server and stopped joining in with the rest of our friends. Hannah said it was due to Harry making her feel awkward. They also need the frequency of their talks despite being caught multiple times. Cut to February of this year, George and I had split and I was pretty broken up about it. The breakup was awful. He essentially told me to wait for him to make his mind up until he decided whether or not he was happier alone and strung me along for a while until I'd had enough. When I started to feel better, I suggested our friends go away for a holiday together at the start of the summer and everyone accepted, including George. Hannah and I agreed to share a room. After booking the holiday, a few things came to light about Hannah and George's friendship. They were seen out together multiple times, just the two of them last year when he and I were still together. If they were approached they'd say things like they'd bumped into each other coincidentally, they were having personal struggles that they only felt they could talk to each other about, etc. And on more than one occasion Hannah became upset and asked the person to keep it to themselves. George would back her up and insist I had a huge problem with him being friends with women I don't. There are multiple other women in our group of friends and I've never had an issue, and that it would be less hassle for everyone if I didn't find out. They've since been out with our friends when I couldn't make it due to work family commitments, and multiple friends admitted to feeling uncomfortable with how they are around each other, not kissing but sitting very close and flirting. When questioned they deny everything and insist they are just close friends. Since the breakup, Both Hannah and George have all but cut themselves out from the rest of us and talk almost exclusively in their private Discord server. It came to a head last night when Hannah and George joined our Discord server playing a game together, and openly admitted to getting together to watch movies together and just generally flirting in front of everyone. I ended up leaving the server in tears as it was the first time I'd heard it myself. I don't think I can go ahead with this holiday, and I no longer feel comfortable being in the group despite everyone being on my side and agreeing that something is going on. I'm angry that I'm the one feeling pushed out when they're the ones in the wrong, but I can't ask everyone to cut George out after we've all been friends for so long. I'm at a loss for what to do, however I know I can't continue like this. Thanks so much for reading this until the end, and any advice would be hugely appreciated. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, you do what's best for your mental. Remove yourself from the group as a whole and your true friends will show themselves. And dear God, please, don't get back with this douche after he decides he's done being alone. You deserve more than to be someone's second choice. I wish you the best, hun. Redditor 2, okay, your friends are on your side. They want to support you. Let them. They saw all this acid going on too. Especially Harry. They probably have the same thoughts you do about the two of them cheating. They're not comfortable with Hannah and George. They have picked you. Now it's time for you to ask them for help disengaging your life from George and Hannah. So don't pull back. Don't isolate yourself. Instead, reach out to your friends and let them be the barrier to Hannah and George. The best weapon is the truth. Start hammering back on their lies. I need you to get righteously angry, and then I need you to take that anger and aim it. Edit, I deleted this originally because it's a bit aggressive. Duck it. It's true. Also, I'm angry that I'm the one feeling pushed out when they're the ones in the wrong, but I can't ask everyone to cut George out after we've all been friends for so long. Yes, you ducking can. You can ask them to cut the people who engaged in an emotional, if not physical, affair on you out of your friend group. Bring up the lies, the favorite person, the private talks both online and off, the destroying Harry and her's relationship, the lies about Harry, the lies about you, the lies and silence they roped these friends into so they wouldn't tell you about their meetings, etc. Because some of them were complicit in these lies, and that is probably why they are on your side. They would like to cut George and Hannah out, but they weren't affected, so they don't feel it's their place. Give them an implicit choice. Also, anyone defending George and Hannah isn't your friend if they've watched this essay go down for 2 years. Redditor follow up, adding on to this comment real quick. The statement about not being able to ask them to cut them out and this response being yes you can. You tell them what's going, you let them know how you feel. Let them choose you or them. If they choose them, cut them out of your life. You don't need people like that or want to be around PPL that want to be around them all the time anyways. Those that choose you, you guys move on happily without them or those PPL if there are any. Redditor 3, hate to say it, but based on what you've written it's been very clear from the start that something was going in between them. I'm sorry, but I would be putting my foot down if my husband was spending hours and hours texting another woman. He'll even if he was spending hours and hours texting another man. Advice wise, you need to now do what's best for you, and if that means leaving that friend group behind, then that's what you need to do. I would suggest talking to a few of them that you are closest to and seeing if they are willing to cut off George and Hannah and move on with you. But ultimately, if you aren't comfortable being in that group anymore, then you may need to be prepared to lose all of them. As for George asking you to wait and see if he wants you back, tell him to duck off and take some time to be alone yourself and love yourself, girl. Redditor 4, I would talk to your friends and explain that you are not comfortable being around Hannah and George, and for your mental well-being you don't want to be part of any gatherings that includes them. They can decide who's important to them. Please don't get back with George, it's not worth it. Redditor 5, it sounds as though your other friends would be understanding if you voiced that you were no longer comfortable with this getaway. Unfortunately, from the sounds of it, there was definitely something going on. It seems like it may be best to distance yourself from these people for the time being, maybe not forever, but for now. You deserve better than that.